From Chicago's Can TV, a look at the week's events is reported in the newspapers, in the blogs and online, and on radio and TV. This is Chicago Newsroom.
Well, hi there and welcome to Chicago Newsroom. I'm Ken Davis. We're here for another show, and the people of Chicago, as you know, have spoken. About a half our population is registered to vote, and about a third of those folks voted on Tuesday. And of that third, about half of them said, okay, sure, give Rahm Emanuel another shot. And about a third of that third decided to throw it in with Chuy Garcia. So what to make of that as we get ready for the big rematch just 6 weeks away? And for us, this is the Super Bowl. Well, we'll have a special guest today, someone who went through all of this just 4 years ago as a candidate. Happy to say that Miguel Del Valle is here. He ran for mayor and was defeated by Rahm Emanuel. So we have to ask Miguel Del Valle how he thinks Chuy Garcia, whom he supports, might become our next mayor. And Delmarie Cobb is with us again, noted Chicago political activist who told me yesterday in person that Tuesday's election was one of the happiest days of her life. So we're going to find out how she thinks Garcia can put together that kind of financial plan that he needs to convince Chicago that he can run this place. That's what the Tribune editorial board thinks he needs to do. And plug all the gaping holes in our various budgets and all that. Carol Felsenthal is here, who was surprised that Rahm Emanuel was pushed into a runoff. I think that's fair to say. And she just said this in Politico. He will win in April. And when he does, I'll also predict that Rahm, not known for introspection or self-criticism, will become an even more arrogant and impatient version of the mayor who appears to think he is smarter, more energetic, and more disciplined than any of the Chicagoans he governs, or certainly any of his opponents and their supporters. You did say that, Carol.
It's funny to have your words
yeah.
But you know, I think this is going to be Rahm's last term.
You do.
I do, and I think he has other things on his mind. He doesn't want to be a Rich or a Richard J. Daley mayor for life. Mm-hmm. And I think that he's going to do whatever he wants in his
Hold on, let me clarify. Are you saying that he's not going to get reelected, so this is his last time?
No,
when
to
he
clarify,
gets
when he gets reelected,
I see. Okay.
I think after 2019,
mm-hmm.
he's going to be on to bigger and better things. I don't think he wants to be a multi-term mayor.
But I agree with Carol. This is going to be his last term.
But
it won't be because he got reelected.
Well, you can kind of see everything falling in line, though. And the big thing that's falling in line is that Chuy Garcia is a good man, as Rahm mm-hmm. said in his really interesting speech. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't have any specific plans. And unless he is really well managed and really well prepared, mm-hmm. when those two guys get up on a stage together, I think Rahm will be careful not to attack him personally, because Chuy is a very nice person, a warm person, a gentleman in the way that Rahm is not. But he's going to say, I want your numbers, and I want to know what we're going to do about the pensions, and when you have the school, the CPS borrowing more money.
But you know, it's like a heavyweight fight. We know that the heavyweight champion comes in with the preponderance of people thinking that person will win. And the challenger always has to go out and make sure that he has a knockout punch in order to be considered the winner. But I don't think that we can allow that to happen in terms of the power structure and ask Garcia for specifics, because we didn't ask Emanuel for specifics, and he's kicking the pension plan down the can down the road, and nobody's saying anything.
We just went through a gubernatorial campaign
right.
where the gubernatorial candidate who won was not asked for specifics, and to this day hasn't given many specifics on how he's going to deal with the pension issue and other issues.
The ones that he has given really scare the hell out of
I wanted
people.
to add that when Emanuel made that statement on election night about Chuy Garcia being a good man, that's part of the strategy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's part of the
No, I agree.
He wants to come off as the nice guy who's fair, and he wants everyone to focus on his technical skills, the mayor's technical skills, and compare those with Chuy Garcia. But Chuy Garcia has to continue to focus on the neighborhoods. I chuckled election night when they went to the campaign headquarters, and when I saw it on the screen, I didn't know which headquarters it was, and then I saw people in the audience with handmade signs with the names of neighborhoods on them.
communities,
And I
right,
said, oh, that's Chewy's campaign. And then the camera showed Rom for Chicago, and I said, wait a minute.
Well, they don't have a lot of money now. Come on. They probably couldn't afford signs.
But this is pure speculation on my part, but I think that those folks were scrambling that night to show that their candidate was for the neighborhoods because they knew that the numbers showed that the neighborhoods of the city of Chicago, not downtown, but the neighborhoods of the city of Chicago have lots of concerns about how this mayor governs in the city of Chicago.
It looked pretty grassrootsy.
And that's why he went to a runoff. Well, that's why he was at Plumbers Hall, too. To give the illusion that I'm one of the people. And we know that he's not one of the people, and that's why the people decided
he is of
were
the
going to
people.
force him into
I think
a runoff.
as Matt Farmer pointed out the other day, it's kind of hard to rally your base when your base lives in L.A. and Wilmette and Washington,
and
D.C.
exactly, and the majority of his money is coming from people who don't live in the city, and those are not the people who can vote.
Half of it from outside Chicago. But he also said something really interesting yesterday to reporters, and that was, I'm not going to change who I am. I am who I am, and I'm going to give the city the benefit of my experience and my understanding of budgets and what we have to do and the hard choices that I've made. And I think that this next 6 weeks is going to be, for somebody who's been involved for decades covering politics, I don't remember ever being so pumped up about watching an election, because it affects it and impacts so many other parts of our culture, including our political culture, including the establishment against the upstart. And I keep getting asked, this is such a national story, and I wrote about it for a national website called Politico, but I keep getting asked, is Chuy Garcia, Elizabeth Warren, and is Rahm Emanuel Hillary Clinton? And I think you have that gap in the Democratic Party, and it will be so interesting to see what happens if Chuy with $1 million and Rahm with $32 million, and it didn't matter. It reminded me somewhat, and it's going into another part, but it reminded me what happened to Eric Cantor.
Well, let's look at. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say. People have already given Rahm Emanuel the benefit of the doubt. That's how he became the mayor in the first place. 59% of the black vote. Black people gave him the benefit of the doubt because he was Barack Obama's chief of staff, and they thought he would be a pipeline to Washington, which would then bring resources back to the neighborhoods. What they saw is, after he got elected, then he actually turned his back on the people who put him in office. And that's what you saw on Tuesday.
He did better in the African American.
Yeah, he may have done better, but part of the reason he did better is because there's a defeatist attitude and apathy in the African American community that I think this changes. This all changes now, because now it's the same as when Harold Washington ran. Now you can see the possibility, there's a path to victory, whereas you did not see the path to victory prior to Tuesday because somebody had $30 million and you thought, oh, they got $30 million, this is a slam dunk. Then suddenly, all of a sudden, it's open to possibilities. And I think you're going to see people come out and the vote is going to change.
Well, I just want to throw in Chuy Garcia's campaign manager, who said yesterday, I don't know if he told this directly to Fran Spielman, but it was her quote, Garcia didn't win more than 1/3 of the votes in any black majority ward, but he outperformed Wilson in half of those wards. And in total, Garcia received almost 1/4 of the vote in black wards, coming in second overall. So that's much better than the 15% that Latino candidates Gary Chico and Miguel Del Valle received combined in black majority wards in 2011. That's actually an analysis that was done by Jonah Newman at the Chicago Reporter. Is that true? Did he do better than you did in the black community?
I have not looked at those numbers, but it wouldn't surprise me. Because you had Carol Moseley Braun on the ballot last time, who was well known and with a track record. But I think that Garcia has the potential here to really, really get the attention of African American voters. As Delmarie just said, Emmanuel now is a known quantity. Okay, there was promise. The president came in and didn't outright endorse Emmanuel, but embraced Emmanuel, reminded everyone that he was his chief of staff, he was his guy. And so there was an outpouring, I think, of support as a result of the president's support for Emmanuel. But it didn't work this time around because Emmanuel is a known quantity. So the promise of the Emmanuel administration wasn't realized in the black community. Instead, the black community got closed schools, red light and speed cameras, unemployment, a rise in unemployment, an increased level in violence, and being nickel and dime to death by all these kinds of fees, including cell phone fees and other kinds of fees, and people are just disgusted. So when we look at the turnout being almost a match to the lowest turnout that we have in recorded history in the city of Chicago, you see that a lot of black voters spoke by staying home.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And so those that spoke by staying home and not voting for any candidate are the ones that Chuy Garcia needs to reach.
But
out.
he has to explain, describe, and do what he did when I sat down for an interview with him and described his relationship with Harold Washington.
Yeah.
And the interview that I did with Chuy Garcia, having interviewed a lot of politicians over my career, was the most charming interview I ever did. He was, his guy, Andrew Sharp, his campaign manager, kept coming in saying, 5 more minutes and you're out of here. And I would say, I can't, I need more time. And he told me about how he saved Harold Washington's life. It's a great story. And Harold Washington was choking. He tapped him on the back, and then Harold Washington said, "You saved my life. What'd you say your name was?" And he said, "Jesus." And Harold Washington comes out, "Jesus!" You scream. And Chuy said that Harold Washington would never call him anything but Jesus because of the connection to this life-saving maneuver. He's really, you sit down with Rahm Emanuel and it's a completely different story.
And he is a warm individual. He's
And
caring.
it comes off.
He's conscientious. He's honest.
Yeah.
And I think people need to see that. And speaking of Harold Washington and his relationship to Harold Washington is important. But you've got a lot of people out there who weren't around for that.
Oh, and Karen Lewis,
and so he needs to be able to demonstrate that today, within today's context, and that won't be easy, but he can do it.
But Karen Lewis picked him.
But the
Karen
other
Lewis
thing
said, "I want you to run."
So the other thing that happens now, though, too, is that all of these people who ran for mayor, if they come and coalesce around Jesus, then the difference will be they become surrogate speakers for him. So he doesn't have to be at 5 different places.
So he has Willie Wilson.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, because
that's the big one.
And because Willie
needs
Wilson,
Doc Walls, too.
Willie Wilson took votes, and Fioretti can talk to him. Everybody's on the same page. Trying to get everybody on the same page, which is, we can do better than this. And we've got an opportunity to, and we cannot squander this opportunity.
Willie Wilson didn't just take votes. Willie Wilson got Jesus Garcia into the runoffs because.
But Fioretti said that he was going to support. There's no way that Fioretti, having been the biggest dissenter in Rahm City Council, could ever. So he's going to support.
I just want to bring this up. I think this is something really interesting. I gave you all these things that. Daniel Hertz put together yesterday, and there's an even more graphic one on the front page of the Sun-Times today. But this to me is really interesting. I live out this way, and this is often referred to as the white Northwest Side. It's not. It's more of a polyglot community. But what I find really interesting is that Rahm Emanuel is down in the 40%-ish range up here in Edgebrook, and in the really sort of hardcore where you would think he should be dark blue instead of light blue. What I think is going on here is this phenomenon of a lot of people who really kind of think they're going to support him, but were just ticked off enough with him that they wanted a protest vote again, so they voted for somebody else, probably Chuy Garcia. But they're going to come back home again. I mean, to me, it seems like there's a very large cohort of people who are just waiting, and they're going to vote for him in the end. No?
If Chuy Garcia's campaign does not effectively lay out the issues
That's his
that are of
opportunity.
concern to these individuals on the Northwest Side, O'Hare Airport noise.
Exactly.
Things that really worry people. Expansion of charter schools
Yeah.
and how they take away resources
Yeah.
from local
Yeah.
neighborhood schools.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Overcrowding in some other schools. These are the kinds of issues that Chewy has to really crystallize in the minds of people in order for them to see that he is going to represent their interests in City Hall. Because what this map tells you is that where is Emmanuel's base? It's downtown.
It's Lakeview. It's Lincoln
it's
Park.
downtown.
Yeah.
It's Lincoln Park. It's downtown.
He
it's
lost the
South
49th ward, though.
Yeah, he
which
did.
is
See, but
interesting.
in the 49th ward,
Because that was a progressive ward. Used to be.
It used to be, not anymore.
I know.
And so
Again, another show.
that's another show. But it's important that Chewy be able to hold this map in front of
Right.
people and tell the story
I just
of
wanna
the
get something
neglect
in-
of the neighborhoods.
I want to get something in here before we move away from it because it's a really interesting little subplot. I was asked by the Portage Park Community Council neighbors group to moderate a mayoral forum up on the northwest side, and Rahm Emanuel didn't come. He never responded to them, but the other four were there, and we sat on the stage up at the Irish Cultural Center, talking one by one to each of the candidates, and the overwhelming question that was submitted by the community was O'Hare noise. When you get out that way, the economy is second to O'Hare noise. And the questions that we were supposed to ask them were, would you agree to meet with the community to see if there's any blah, 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 blah? Because Rahm Emanuel has decidedly not met with them. 2 days before we had the forum, Chuy Garcia goes out and talks to the fair people and has a press conference at O'Hare talking about how we have got to deal with this and I will have a plan to do it. I think, actually, to contradict myself, I think that has something to do with this. There were people who switched their votes at the last moment thinking, hey, maybe this guy is listening to us.
Well, that's
He's
what-
going to
that's
start
what-
listening more.
but that's
You have
what
another
people-
forum, he'll be there.
Right, and that's all people want. I mean, one of the things I said in one of my other campaigns for alderman is that people, even if they lose in terms of their issue, they want to know that they were heard.
That they've been listened
People
to,
want to
yeah,
know
yeah.
that somebody listened to them, cared enough to at least listen to my concern, and that's what Rahm does not do.
There is a total disconnect, and people feel it, between neighborhoods and City Hall. And that's also reflected in the results of the aldermanic
More than
races.
more than historically.
More than
before.
historically,
More
yes,
than
yes.
with Daley.
People don't feel that they have a voice, that they have access, that they're being listened to. And that was one of my early criticisms
Yeah.
of Rahm Emanuel, is he doesn't listen.
And he-
and he knows, he has
knows
all
what's
the
best.
answers.
He knows what's best.
But he's
and he
also smart
imposes.
enough, he's going to change.
He's
he's
smart
gonna-
enough, but he makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
He's
but-
made-
but again-
he'll listen now. He'll get reelected,
again-
and then
The only-
everything will be forgotten once he's
but
in.
again, I mean, we're saying he's smart enough as if he's. I mean, again, we're feeding into this like he is smarter than everybody else in the room.
No,
he
I
is
think
not.
I think he's
he is
phony.
not.
I think he's a phony. He's going to do what he has to do to
But
get reelected.
he's strategic.
He can't,
but being
his-
smart enough,
calculating.
he's
totally
exactly.
calculating.
He's,
Exactly.
he's a young guy. He's in his
And
50s,
that's why this
right?
whole and
He
that's
is-
why this whole campaign has been about, every ad was about, I'm misunderstood. You know, I'm really not abrasive. I mean, you know, I'm a good guy. It's just that I have this personality, as the president said, he's hard-headed and he's a knucklehead, those kind of things. I mean, come on.
And in between the lines, yes, I'm all those things, but I also know that I'm highly competent,
Right.
and that I know exactly what's best for you.
Right.
That
So-
message comes across, and people get turned off by
Are
that
we
message.
saying then that he lost this election not on substance but on style?
Oh, I think
that it's
a
all
lot of it. I
personality?
think-
That
I
he
think-
might have been otherwise a good mayor and an
That's
accepted
part of
mayor?
it.
I think
That's
it's. I think
part of
it's.
it.
An, I
But
think it's an
not all of
important part of it.
But it's not all of it.
And I-
Failure to deal with the parking meter situation, failure to deal with the camera situation, red light and speed cameras, failure to deal with a number of budgetary issues, failure to deal adequately with how the Chicago public schools are being managed and how neighborhood schools are faring under this administration. Failure to do all those things is not about personality.
and the
it's
elected-
about the lack of policy.
And the
that makes
elected
sense.
school board.
And,
that's a big
that's
big
what they
issue.
wanted us to believe, that it was about personality. That's the part I resented the most
Ah,
about this
interesting.
entire campaign, is that they wanted to meld it down to nothing more than
Because they could
personality.
fix the personality
Right,
piece.
exactly. And I'm just a little rough around the edges, and I'm abrasive.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about personality. The man has a tin ear. When you look at the things that he wanted to do in terms of the Obama school on the north side, and to say, I mean, things have been said. I don't want white families to leave the city. So you don't care if black families leave the city in droves, but you're going to put all the selective enrollment schools next to each other to make sure you save the white families.
That's what was so interesting about Chewy's speech when he mentioned that particular teacher and the little girl who you can, the 10-year-old girl who's a great student and loves her school and has got all this enthusiasm, but the parents moved to the suburbs because they don't want her in a classroom with 35 people. I thought during the campaign, and it was really brought home to me when I sat down with Chewy, that he's too nice and he's too soft-spoken and he's too gentle. And then he gets up, Rahm gives a speech that, I don't know what that speech was about. It was hard to watch him. But Chewy gets up there and he gives a barn burner of a speech. It was the best performance by him that I've heard. And
I just want to be host here for a second and point out that we are already 2/3 of the way through our show, and we haven't even mentioned the fact that we have historic numbers of ward races to deal with. It's your call. If you want to keep talking about Rahm Emanuel, we could do that.
No,
but
because
maybe
I
we
think
should.
this is talking about Rahm Emanuel.
Well, it
the fact
certainly
that,
is.
that there's
Yeah.
are 19
Yeah.
ward races that are in runoffs,
All right.
because in most cases they were people
Okay,
who
let's start with
supported
big
the
picture
mayor.
and quickly funnel down. What the hell happened? How did this happen?
Well,
How did
I
we get there?
want to add to what Delmarie just said. The reason we have all these runoffs is because people are upset. They've had it with the fact that their alderman many times votes at the rate of 100% with the mayor. They feel powerless. The voter feels powerless. And this was the only way that they could express that.
But it was the same under Daley, and the numbers were the same under Daley.
But Rahm has not lost a single vote on the city council floor, not one.
Not one. Well,
Even though he's had, Fioretti and he has Scott Wagasback and
Sposato
what I was thinking this morning, if Rahm wins again, the next mayor I think should be Scott Wagasback. I think he's who had all this money thrown at him to defeat him
He certainly showed
and he won with more than 80% of the vote.
yeah.
He's really a kind of a remarkable guy, and
He's a
young.
remarkable guy, but he doesn't take risks when it comes to supporting people like Jesus Garcia and other candidates.
Interesting.
I gave him an opportunity to endorse me. I like the guy. I think he's great, but he is
Isn't
just.
he has not supported.
He is
He's
just
not
too
endorsed
cautious.
Garcia.
He is just too
He'll
cautious.
endorse. I think if he hasn't.
And I think he has to be bold when it comes to being able to form the kind of network and coalitions that are necessary
So what were
to deal with the broader population in the city of Chicago
I'm just
beyond
getting-
his ward.
I'm getting the 5-minute notice. Around the table, what were the ward races that you thought were most important and or impactful?
Well, I think the ones that's made the biggest statement certainly is Deb Mell, the fact that she's in a runoff. I mean, you're the daughter
Mell's daughter.
of Dick Mell, and you can't win outright. And
He
then
probably doesn't have a ward organization.
and the same
or
way with
anything.
John Pope. I mean, John Pope in 1999 when he first ran, it was one of the most expensive automatic races. He was in a runoff. I think they spent about $300,000 to get him elected. He's been as a rubber stamp ever since he's been in the city council. And the fact that he's in a runoff against a teacher, I mean, I think that's absolutely wonderful.
I'll add the 11th ward.
Right.
where-
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
even
Where,
more wonderful.
A Daley.
The person who forced the runoff, I've never heard of him.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a Daley.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Right.
I don't want to waste a lot of time on this, but the 10th ward is so interesting to me because of that whole issue that was going on with pet coke and the dumping of pet coke in Chicago. And there was supposed to be this comprehensive ordinance that was going to change it. And on the day of, it got switched, and the alderman had to vote for it. And I would say that I'm guessing that was a pretty tough vote for him to have to do.
Oh,
And he
exactly.
did, and that's probably why he got such opposition.
Exactly, and we saw that. I mean, we saw that in 2011 with the when Danny Solis was in the race he was in terms of the
Crawford.
The Crawford,
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
yeah.
Those kinds of issues. I mean, people who live in those communities, those are very important issues. And then when you go with the establishment, I mean, I think that's why he's in a runoff. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
You know, when Daley Thompson, who looks just like Richard J., it's just uncanny, but when he was asked about, he would have to recuse himself on so many issues because of all the business dealings, especially that Rich Daley has. So I thought it was ridiculous to put him into alderman. I thought the fact that the two appointed aldermen appointed by Rahm Emanuel are both in runoffs, Natasha Holmes and Mel, and also in my ward, the 43rd, Michelle Smith had so much backing from Rahm Emanuel. They were joined at the hip, and she's in a runoff that she could lose because she didn't win by very much.
Right.
And Ray Colon losing up in Logan's, I mean, losing outright. This is not a runoff.
And to a 26-year-old, he will be the first openly gay alderman in the city council.
And also it looks to me like the CTU had a very, very good aldermanic night too. I mean, a lot of their candidates
they did.
You know, the
exceptionally
CTU
well.
provided Chuy Garcia and many of these aldermanic candidates that are now in runoffs with the energy and the spark that was needed. I had hoped, and I talked early on with Karen Lewis about making sure that there were candidates in every race, because that's what you need. That's what the people need. They need choices, and they need to stimulate the kind of political activity that's going to create the momentum
And
that's
change the
necessary
makeup.
to defeat the incumbents.
And change the makeup of the city
could
council,
literally
because
change city council
even
the
if he
first time
gets
in our
back in,
lives.
that was my position. Even if Rahm is the mayor, we got to change the makeup of the city
It's
council.
very interesting.
But
All
the
right,
word
okay.
momentum is important, and that's what Chuy has.
Big
Exactly.
Mo. Okay, so we have like a minute or so left, and it's it just does it a disservice. But the thing that people are talking about today is the Black-Brown coalition, the need for the Black-Brown coalition. WVON's audience must be way up today because I've been listening a lot. And, Cliff Kelly did a full-throated endorsement of it last night, and Perry this morning doing the same thing. There seems to be, if that's indicative, there seems to be an acceptance in the sort of the vocal black community anyway that this is an opportunity and it ought to happen. If that does, it's a big deal. Can it happen?
No, I think it can happen. I mean, certainly the case has to be made. But for one of the things that I've been saying in interviews is that Chuy has to say, I'm one of you. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. I'm not somebody who just came along and ran for office and decided, let's have this coalition.
I was here before you
were
born.
I was here. I mean, I've been here. I've been standing with you on issues all along, which is why people like Karen Lewis came out and supported me. Toni Prewinkle, even if she hasn't come out, I'm her floor leader. Bobby Steele, Timuel Black, and just go down the list. There's a reason that these people are supporting me.
You know, when Chuy was elected to the Illinois Senate, and I was, by that time, I had been there 6 years, I was a member of the Legislative Black Caucus. Chuy joined the Legislative Black Caucus before there was a critical mass of Latino legislators, and then a Latino caucus was created. But even after that, there was collaboration. So Chuy has a long history of working with the black community, but a lot of folks aren't aware of that history. That's why he's got to get out there.
Okay, we got to cut it off there. I'm so sorry. I wish we could go on for hours more, and we will. We got a lot more to talk about as this race goes on. Thank you so much to Miguel Del Valle for being here today, to Delmarie Cobb for being here today, and to Carol Felsenthal. And we will be back again next week with another program. And don't forget to watch CAN-TV all the time and online. You can see all of these candidate forums, and there's going to be many, many more of them. So, as we always say, do your binge watching on CAN-TV. It's a great place to do it. And you can watch Chicago Newsroom right here at this address anytime you want. It's a community service of CAN-TV, and you can also listen to our podcast. And I will be back next week with another show and hopefully a lot more to talk about. Thank you for watching. I'm Ken Davis. See you next week. Bye.